All right, everybody, we are live, episode 56 of Before the Battle. My name is Nick Baldwin, and as always, I'm your host. Joining us, as always, Go Paolo, a frustrated Go Paolo, that is. I mean, the interwebs, the internet gods did not want Go Paolo here on episode 56 of Before the Battle. First off, the first hangout didn't work. I couldn't start it for whatever reason. Second one, Paulo couldn't join, and it took a solid 20 minutes to figure out that. But Paulo is here. How are you doing?
Hey, what's up, guys? Just happy to be here. I guess I'm just gonna make the big bombshell announcement, or not really so much, but this is probably gonna be my last full show with Before the Battle. I've already informed Wes and Nick over here.
Breaking news, everybody, here on Before the Battle.
Yeah. I'll be taking a hiatus. I'll be doing a GSP too, but I'll drop by once in a while to do the DraftKings segment, as I mentioned to Nick. But just whole cards and stuff. Just can't keep up with the MMA scene anymore. So.
Yeah, so the plan is, and I guess Paulo can clarify if his plans has changed since I kind of talked to him about this. But basically what we're going to do, me and Wes will do the show. We'll probably find another person, bring someone on who we'll play that by ear. I mean, that's not a big deal. And then Paulo, it sounds like what he's going to do is kind of join the show at the very end. We'll figure out exactly when and how we'll do that, but basically just for the DraftKings portion, and we'll probably lengthen that a bit because we're not going to have Paulo come on here, say 5 names and leave. That's a bit too short, so we'll probably go in a bit more depth, I would imagine. But yeah, that's the plan. So yeah, there you guys go. Anything you want to add, Paulo?
Yeah, no, I'm cool. If it's just 5 minutes, I drop by. That's cool too. But yeah, just doing the whole thing from top to bottom. Like, honestly, man, just
yes, especially when we start at now 11.
Exactly, that too.
Your time.
That's the main reason too. Like, seriously, like 11 p.m. Like, we can't do this like the UFC does its press conferences. We're like 10 o'clock. The UFC says there's a press conference at 7. What time does it start? It's like 7:20, 7:15 or something. I don't know.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I blame Wes because ever since Wes came on here for the first time, the shows have gotten a lot longer. So, Wes.
Yeah, it's about true. It's pretty true.
Hey, Wes has all that knowledge to drop, man. They got a break,
I always have a lot to share.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Yes. All that MMA on the Twitter. Wes Riddle, how's it going?
It's going pretty good. Just trying to enjoy my winter break now that I've officially started it. I'm not going to be taking a hiatus. I'll be around for a little bit, and hopefully this show for next week. I will not be around. Of course, none of us will be around because we'll have some off weeks to take care of, and we're doing the show early. Hopefully the show ends under like an hour, unlike some of the previous shows we've done. But it's always fun to talk fights, and I'm ready to talk about the closer of the year, UFC 207.
Yeah, UFC is ending 2016 with a bang. Go Paulo is ending his normal Before the Battle stint, so to speak, with a bang. UFC 207, I mean, Paulo, ever since 205 and 207 were lined up and you have the big fights at the top, you've been saying that this is going to be – have you actually said this is going to be more exciting off of paper or that is more stacked? Which – now I forget. Which one actually is it? Do you believe this is a bigger card on paper than 205, or do you just think it's going to be more exciting when it's all
I think it's going to be a more exciting card. I don't know if it's going to be bigger than 205 in terms of pay-per-view buy, sells. It's probably going to be top 3, top 4, top 3 of the year. But in terms of how exciting it will be, just looking at these matchups, I think these matchups are going to blow 205s out of the water.
Yeah, I mean, 205 was great, but I mean, this is going to be a fun card, and we'll get into it all. So we'll go through every fight. Of course, some a bit more in depth than others. We'll start out first with the curtain jerker UFC Fight Pass early prelims, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Pacific. On UFC Fight Pass, Brandon Ruckus Thatch taking on newcomer Nico the Hybrid Price. Paula, we'll start with you. Thatch is on a bit of a losing skid, hasn't won for quite some time, and Price, as I said, is undefeated and making his debut. Do you have a pick here?
Oh yeah, sorry, you froze down there. Yeah, no, this Brandon Thatch fights is pretty much simple, right? I mean, if he gets taken down or if the guy can get him to the ground, he's pretty much done. If they can't, he pretty much knocks him out, right? I mean, even against CR, I mean, the battle of two strikers, you would think that those two would just go toe to toe and someone's gonna get knocked the F out. But what happened there was Thatch actually started to grapple, and wasn't a good idea because CR was better on the ground, even though CR wasn't. That's not really CR's specialty. But he ended up getting choked out towards the end, and the way he just got choked out, where he was just like, he just basically gave up, basically just lost the will to fight. He was gassed too, and that says a lot for a guy that trains in Denver. So I don't know, maybe he and the thing is, Price is significantly below all the other guys he's lost to, but this kid's still talented and he's got some grappling chops too. So if he can get Thatch to the ground, I think he can win. If he can't, Thatch would knock him out. I think maybe the second's gonna happen more. Maybe Thatch is gonna, I don't know, with his back against the wall, just come out there blazing and kill Price, and that's what I'm gonna bank on.
And Wes, do you have anything to add? Nico Price, relatively unknown, of course, making his debut against a guy that was once a big rising star in the welterweight division, but he's lost a lot of heat because he lost a couple in a row and really hasn't won for quite some time, as I already mentioned. Brandon Thatch, Nico Price, who are you picking here?
Yeah, his last win actually came in November of 2013 when he fought Paolo, and then he had that massive layoff where I think he took maybe 2 years. I'm trying to look now that I have it up. It was a little less than 2 years, a year and a half, and then was put in that main event versus Ben Henderson. Ended up losing that, then lost to Gunner, and then lost to CR. So he's lost his last three all by submission. Thatch has some good wins on his resume, including, like I said, Thiago. He also beat Biggie Rhodes and Njokuani Chidi back in one of their fights a long time ago. So he had a good streak going for him, but he's always struggled in the grappling department. He's great on the feet, but his opponent, Nico Price, I think is also really good on the feet as well. I watched some of his Nico's highlights. Not really the most technical in comparison to Thatch on the feet, but I think that he has the edge in the grappling. I think this fight might kind of even out on the feet, and I'm actually going to be leaning towards Price in this one. I just don't feel too confident in picking Thatch. The fact that he hasn't really been too active in the past recent years, and also the fact that he hasn't had a win in a while. Just don't really feel confident in picking him. So I have on UFC Pick'em Nico Price. I have him. I think he's going to be able to get a finish in this one. So I have a second round knockout. I think he'll be the first guy to stop Brandon Thatch.
Very interesting. Well, stop. Oh, yeah, that's right. Gunnar Nelson almost did it, but of course, if Nico Price does catch him, he will be the first. I am going to go with Ruckus here. I think he gets the job done and gets back on track and saves his MMA career or UFC career, I should say, to say the least. I can't be confident in Thatch against anybody because his fight IQ is rather low. Sometimes he makes some questionable moves that could lead to him losing. So I think against a guy like Nico Price, and I'll just say that I don't really know much at all about Price, but I like Brandon Thatch against a newcomer level of fighter. And maybe Nico Price, maybe I should have researched him a bit more, and maybe he's a killer, but it doesn't really sound like that. Thatch is favored here by quite a bit. I'm going to go Brandon Thatch by knockout here. I like him against a lot of the lower level welterweights in the UFC, or some of them anyways, and Price probably ends up in that area of the division. So I'm going to go Brandon Thatch by knockout, but I'm not that confident just because Brandon Thatch, not the smartest fighter of them all, and he could put himself in a bad position and end up either getting choked out, knocked out, whatever. I'm not confident, but I'm going to go with one of the bigger favorites on the card here, Brandon Thatch. Next up, we got the featured Fight Pass early prelim. Alex Cowboy Oliveira, the Brazilian Cowboy, taking on Tim the Dirty Bird. Means really interesting welterweight matchup, and I'm happy that Oliveira is moving back up to welterweight. Of course, he missed weight badly for his lightweight outing in his last fight against Will Brooks. Paolo, are you going to go with the Dirty Bird here or the other Cowboy?
Gotta go with the other cowboy not the other cowboy. Gotta go with Means here. See, this is an interesting fight because these guys are almost kind of the same where they stand right now. They're both guys who are like just outside the rankings, and they can beat guys who hover around the lower top 15. Guys like Will Brooks, as Alex Oliveira beat him, or for Team Means. So last game he beat like a Sabah Humasi. Then he had a win over George Sullivan the other time. But when you match them up against guys who are maybe top 10, higher top 15 caliber opponents, they lose. The way they fight is they're both strong in the clinch, and they both like to use those elbows, especially with Tim Means. He's got a very suitable name for the way he fights, man. Mean. He's a very mean fighter. Like, he throws elbows, gashes opponents. He's got pretty good cardio, and he's very precise in the way he strikes, man. He's a really disciplined fighter, despite the fact that he can get down and dirty. With Oliveira, he can pretty much say the same thing too, and he's really slick on the ground. He's got a pretty good Muay Thai. I think he was hurting the other cowboy in the fight too, but he got choked out by Cowboy. I mean, Cowboy's finished everyone, so no shame there. Line is pretty accurate, I'd say. It could be anyone's fight, but I like Tim Means to get the job done over 3 rounds. Is there a finish? Probably. I think he'd probably get him out of there around round 2, round 3, but it's gonna be close for the first few minutes.
Quick shout out to Slurpee King 88 for spamming the chat. There you go. I hope you're happy. Wes, Tim Means, Alex Oliveira. Who you got here?
I think this is one of the closest matchups on the card, and I really had a hard time picking one leading up to today because, of course, we needed to have our picks today instead of waiting to the last minute. In the end, I'm actually going to be leaning towards Oliveira in this one. I think when his previous fights at welterweight, I think welterweight's going to be the best division for him. He did look pretty good when he fought Will Brooks. Then again, Will Brooks was a little bit smaller, of course, and he was able to pretty much take him down multiple times in that fight. I'm trying to just take a look and see some of the stuff that they've done. I do like Tim Means. I'm a big fan of his style. He's a great striker, and his cardio is usually what gets him through his fights. He's always willing to go pretty much throughout all of the rounds, and you never see him quit. And then on the other hand, you do have Oliveira, who's great at Muay Thai. That's one of his specialties. So he's a pretty decent striker in his own way. Does a little bit differently. Means is more of a boxer, and like I said, Oliveira is more of a Muay Thai specialist. But I feel like Oliveira, I think this fight might turn into a grappling match a little bit too, because we've seen Oliveira utilize his takedowns really well in some of his fights. And that's one thing that he tends to go to if his striking is not working. And Tim Means has never really had the greatest takedown defense. It's been okay, but I feel like Oliveira has improved than from what we've seen when he started in his UFC career back when he fought Gilbert Burns. So I feel like Oliveira is just a little step ahead in the grappling department, pretty even on the feet. I think Oliveira is going to be able to take the fight down and possibly get a submission in this one. I'm kind of risking it on Pick'em. I have Oliveira a second round rear naked choke. I think he's going to probably get a choke by rear naked in this one from maybe Means trying to scramble back to his feet. So that's what I got in this one.
Very interesting. I'm going to go with the Dirty Bird here. I like Tim Means quite a bit in this fight. Alex Oliveira, I'm higher on him more than a lot of people, but I like Tim Means in the spot quite a bit. Tim Means, both guys are very good strikers, definitely different styles, but Tim Means just gets in your face. He's such a gritty fighter, super tough. And Oliveira, yeah, he's tough, but I mean, you can't really be much tougher than someone like Tim Means. Tim Means, very durable, of course. He's been on a roll other than the submission loss to Matt Brown about 1.5 years ago. And that was kind of before the fall of Matt Brown, I would say. Before that, he had only lost, I guess, what was it, 2 in a row, the Lawler and Hendricks fight, and then from there he lost quite a bit. But yeah, Tim Means, super good on the feet. Oliveira is good as well. Oliveira doesn't have terrible submissions as well as Wes mentioned. Tim Means, of course, striker. Maybe he can get in his fair share of submissions once in a while, but he's a striker. Both guys are primarily stand-up guys. And I think Tim Means is going to be the sharper guy on the feet, a bit more precise, probably a bit more power. He is the not actually the bigger guy. He's a bit taller, but the reach goes to Oliveira. So fairly even in that sense. But I'm going to go Tim Means. I think Tim Means, I think he gets the job done by TKO. I think he just overwhelms Alex Oliveira on the feet. So give me the Dirty Bird by second round TKO. Standing TKO probably follows up with a bit of ground and pound. And that is a wrap. Moving on, kicking off the FS1 prelims, we got Mike Quicksand Pyle, of course, a welterweight veteran, taking on the Dominican Nightmare, Alex Garcia. Wes, I'll start with you. Are you going to go with Mike Pyle here, or are you going with Alex Garcia?
I'm going with Garcia in this one. I think Pyle, he's had a great career, but he's definitely faded quite a bit in recent performances. Like his last fight, we saw him fight Alberto Mina, and just didn't look the sharpest. He landed a couple strikes here and there, but overall, Mina was the better grappler and also better on the feet, and ending up landing that flying knee in the second round. The end of the fight, had a comeback win against Sean Spencer, a fight that I missed. And Sean Spencer, he's a pretty predominant stand-up guy, but he was able to land some shots in there too to hurt Mike Pyle. Pyle's chin has definitely faded since what it used to be. Garcia, he's more of a grappler. I think that when it comes down to this fight, I think that it's not really going to be contested on the feet too much. I think Garcia is just going to be able to get inside and take Pyle down. Pyle has used to be pretty decent at stuffing takedowns, but now that he's older, one of the oldest fighters I think on the roster, I just don't think – I think he's going to be a little bit too slow, and I don't think he's going to be able to stuff the takedowns. I think Garcia is going to get a unanimous decision in this one, probably by grinding it out, and I think he could maybe score about 4 or 5 takedowns in this one.
Nice. And Paolo, what do you think? Are you going to go with Quicksand, the slight underdog in this fight, coming off a loss to Alberto Mina? Of course, one of the better knockouts of the year. Or do you think Alex Garcia gets it done and gets back into the winning column? He's coming off a loss as well.
Yeah, I think Pyle could actually pull this off. The thing about Mike Pyle is his chin is obviously not fading, and if Garcia comes in there and blitzes him and knocks him out, I'm not gonna be super shocked about it. But I don't think Garcia is gonna do that. I know, I've seen some mini Hector Lombard comparisons, which is kind of funny because Lombard used to fight at welterweight before. But I mean, if you look at Garcia, the way he's built, he's obviously kind of like a slightly smaller Hector Lombard, and he's mostly a grappler, but he's got that explosiveness and that athleticism to make his all right striking seem like better than it is, kind of like what Lombard does have. But so maybe he catches Mike Pyle, maybe knocks him out early, but I mean, if he doesn't, he doesn't have a good gas tank. He could completely fade within the middle of the second and in the third. And even if he gets top position, Pyle has very good guard, man. He's very active from the bottom. We saw what happened in the Rick Story fight when Rick Story basically put him out on his feet in the first round, arguably a 10th round, and he came back and won the second and third by doing more in the grappling. And I think he can do the same to Garcia here. So I'm gonna go with Pyle here.
Now, both guys are guys. I mean, if they weren't fighting each other, I would look to fade them both probably. But I have to pick a guy, and that's honestly going to be Mike Pyle. I agree with Paulo here. And this is a super close fight and one of the closer ones on the card. But this is kind of, as I alluded to already and implied, this is more of a fade on Alex Garcia than it is being confident in Quicksand's skills in 2016. Quicksand, of course, a veteran of the sport. He's had right around 40 fights or so. Yeah, 40 to be exact. This will be his 41st pro fight, assuming UFC.com is correct, which is not always, so I don't know. But Garcia, his gas tank is probably the biggest worry for me. He is very inactive in later rounds. He gasses out hard. You see that in the Sean Strickland fight. Doesn't look terrible early on, but I mean, then the later the fight went, the less activity he had, the less output he had, and eventually he got knocked out late in the third round. And I'm not sure Mike Pyle catches him, but I think he can stay on his feet, keep the fight standing, and outpoint Alex Garcia en route to a unanimous decision. Mike Pyle, the more active guy, I think anyways. Garcia, not really known for his output. He has the grappling of force takedowns, and then the one-punch knockout power. thanks to being built like a truck. But you look at Alex Garcia and you see, oh, the guy's a monster. But honestly, not really. It's very deceiving because this guy looks like he's an absolute beast in the cage, and he's kind of underwhelming. I think that's actually a good way to describe Alex Garcia, underwhelming. You expect more than you get from Alex Garcia. And I mean, Paolo is getting up there in age, and again, his chin isn't where it once was. So if Garcia catches him early, would not be a shock. But I'm going to go Mike Paolo here, the slight underdog, to keep the fight standing, land a bit more on the feet, and win a close decision. Next up, we got Antonio Carlos Jr. taking on Marvin Vettori. Pretty interesting middleweight matchup between the Tough Brazil 3 winner and a guy that made his debut this past August at UFC 202, got the win over Alberto Uda. Paolo, we'll start with you. Are you going to go with Antonio Carlos Jr., Shoeface, or do you think the Italian gets the job done?
How far Shoeface has fallen. Well, when Shoeface won the Tough Brazil 3, he was a pretty decent prospect at that time, a heavyweight, and then he was going to become a light heavyweight because he trains with Chigano, Junior Dos Santos, who also happens to be one of his closer friends. And in the show Tough Brazil 3, he pretty much just like blitzed through everyone, killed everyone. It was like, you knew the guy would win. But after losing to Patrick Cummins, then he also had another underwhelming performance and lost to Dan Kelly. That's the one that was really telling for me about him. I'm like, I think he was the biggest favorite in that card too. It was like a minus 500 or something like that. People were thinking he would just like roll up Dan Kelly and walk home. But no, that's not what happened. In fact, it was Dan Kelly kind of rolled him up, and that showed me he's really not the guy we thought he was. He isn't who we thought he was. And now he's going up against Marvin Vettori, who's a pretty great grappler. I mean, he submitted a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt in his UFC debut. And, even on that fight, you could say that, Uda was like holding his own and he was pretty much on par. I mean, he still made a mistake and Vettori capitalized on it. So I think what could happen is the fight's going to go on the ground at some point. And Shoeface is going to get out grappled by Vettori. He's going to make a mistake. Maybe he gets tired within the third round or the late second round, and Vettori capitalizes and submits him.
Wes, what do you think? Are you going to go with Marvin Vettori? Last time I checked, he was the slight underdog, but I wouldn't be surprised if the line has flipped at this time. Or do you think the Brazilian gets back into the winning column?
My reasoning is pretty much very straightforward. You just mentioned, too, how Vettori in his UFC debut submitted Alberto Uda. Also, the fight beforehand, when he won the Venator, I think it was the welterweight belt, he fought Igor Araujo, who's another fantastic black belt, another guy with great jiu-jitsu skills. And right there, he was able to knock him out, or not knock him out, but knock him down pretty early in that fight and work to get a submission in like just over a minute into that fight. So that right there, 2 guys that he submitted that are black belts. Also, he's really young. I think he's only 23 or 24, so he has a lot of potential, a lot of growth. So even a loss, I don't think will hurt him too much. I think Sapato, his best place is going to be trying to get the takedown, but I think that what's going to happen is going to be very similar to when he fought Dan Kelly. I think that the takedowns are just he's going to get too tired. I don't think that he's going to be able to find a submission if he takes Vettori down, and I think Vettori's just going to be able to get a better wind and be able to come on strong in probably the second or the third round. I have Marvin Vettori. I think he's going to be able to get probably a TKO stoppage. He could get a submission, definitely, especially like I mentioned with his submission wins over black belts. But I have a third-round TKO for Marvin Vettori in his second UFC fight.
Yeah, everybody is fading Marvin Vettori's grappling just because he's going up against these black belt, Brazilian black belts, and they think he's going to get choked out, and he ends up choking his opponents out. And it's kind of crazy on paper. You think, yeah, Marvin Vettori, maybe not the best. I mean, he is a good grappler, but it's not like he's a black belt. And then going up against these very high-rated jiu-jitsu artists, and of course he gets the tap. So it's pretty crazy how that all unfolds, and it's kind of why MMA is so, anything can happen, so to speak. I'm going to go with Marvin Vettori in this fight, and I'm fairly confident. Antonio Carlos Jr., he's a good fighter, but he's not fantastic anywhere. He's a good grappler, but again, Marvin Vettori is surprisingly good on the mat, and he has knockout power. His striking is coming together as well. I think this guy, Marvin Vettori, in my opinion, is a guy you got to look out for in this middleweight division. He's young, and he's training at King's MMA, one of the best gyms in the world. So yeah, and he's very good in the spotlight. I mean, there's no nerves at all. I've interviewed him a few times, and I mean, he's so confident. And yeah, you can be overconfident, but there's a difference between, as we all know, being overconfident and just being extremely confident. And he's not overconfident, I don't think. He is just very confident in his abilities, and he's good under the spotlight. And can I say the same thing about Shoeface? I don't know. I've never talked to him, but I imagine it's probably the same case. But again, just for upcoming prospect, that's always something good to have, and sort of factor or something that could play into this fight against Vettori is the size. Marvin Vettori has only had 2 fights in middleweight. He moved up fairly recently. His last fight before the UFC call, that was the first round win over Igor Arajo for the Venator FC promotion. That was his middleweight debut, and some people think he's undersized at middleweight. And typically, I don't necessarily think that's the case, but against Carlos Jr. Carlos Jr. is a big middleweight. He, of course, won tough as a heavyweight, had 1 or 2 fights in the UFC as light heavyweight, and eventually dropped down to middleweight. So he has quite the size advantage over Vettori. So he could use that and really be able to bully Marvin Vettori on the mat, and maybe even finish it early. So I do see a path to victory for Carlos Jr. in that regard. But I think as far as his skills go, I think Marvin Vettori is quite a bit better than Carlos Jr. everywhere. Grappling is of course very close, but Carlos Jr. still, the fight IQ isn't there. He makes a lot of mistakes. Give me Marvin Vettori by first round finish. I'll go TKO, but again, consecutive submission wins over black belts. Would not be surprised if he chokes out Carlos Jr. as well. Next up, Dong Hyun Kim taking on Tarek Safdie. An interesting welterweight matchup. Number 9 versus number 12. Wes, are you going to go with Spone Shear or the stun gun?
I'm going to lean Dong Hyun Kim in this one. I know he hasn't fought in about a year and a half, but in comparison to that, Tarek, he hasn't really looked the best in some of his recent performances. He was able to beat Jake Ellenberger in between 2 of his losses. That was just kind of mediocre. A decent performance, but it wasn't anything to praise about or to say that he's going to be a threat possibly for the title. His other 2 losses in the division came to Rick Story in his last fight, which he ended up just getting outstruck. And I felt like Tarek would have been the better striker in that one, especially with some of his background. I think in kickboxing or whatever he does. But he is a great kickboxer. Does utilize a lot of kicks in his fights. But I think that's the only thing he really has going for him. He does have good takedown defense, but I feel like Dong Hyun Kim, he loves to be able to just grind too. And once he gets on top, it's really hard to stand up. I think that Dong is going to be able to pretty much I think he could possibly outstrike Tarek if he fights a little smarter. But I definitely think that Dong has the advantage in the clinch, and I think that all he needs to do is get the fight down to the ground, and I feel like he's the guy to do it. So in this fight, I'm going to have Dong Hyun Kim. Don't really have too much else to say about it, but I think that he's going to be able to get a decision victory in this one.
And Paolo, what do you think? Dong Hyun Kim and Tarek Safdie.
Yeah, no, I'm going the other way here. I'm going to go with Tarek here. As far as both of them being inactive, yeah. Like Tarek Safdie has been injured so many times. Like that fight that he had against Jake Ellenberger, I think that was the 3rd or 4th time that fight got rebooked. Because as you know, the first time it got booked was when Tarek was coming into the UFC, and then Ellenberger got injured, and then the second time Tarek got injured and Tarek got injured. Like, the guy's been unhealthy for a while, and a little fact here is that he was the last welterweight champion from Strikeforce. He ended up beating Nate Marquardt after Nate Marquardt knocked out Tyrone Woodley, who is now the UFC champion. But I like Tarek Safdie here because I think he's the better striker and he's the more composed, disciplined fighter. The thing about Dong Hyun Kim is this guy hasn't really beaten anyone relevant. At least Tarek Safdie has beaten Jake Ellenberger. Who the hell has Dong Hyun Kim beaten? Like, I honestly can't think of the top of my head, like, which relevant fighters Dong Hyun Kim beaten. The only ones I can think of are lightweights now, Nate Diaz and TJ Grant. right? Oh, he beat Matt Brown way back then, like, which was a bogus decision in my opinion because Matt Brown did more damage. But I think Tarek Saffiedine can just win by fighting smart. Use those leg kicks, tear down Kim's legs, and he won't have the. It's gonna slow him down. He's not gonna be able to throw as hard into his punches. It's gonna help defending his takedowns. And if Donghyun Kim goes Donghyun kill on Tarek Saffiedine can pick him apart too, because Donghyun Kim isn't really that good of a striker, even though he likes to think he is, and his chin isn't good either. I mean, Tarek's isn't either, but I think Kim's worse. So I got Tarek here, man.
But you brought up Donghyun Kim beating Nate Diaz back in the day. So for that, I believe Donghyun Kim could be a 3-division champion.
Three.
You never know.
Kim,
Maybe.
middleweight division, welterweight division, and he chops off a limb in his last fight to make lightweight and
beats Khabib.
MMA math at its finest. All of that said, I'm going to pick Donghyun Kim in this fight. I don't like him a lot because Tarek Saffiedine, if he keeps it standing, and he absolutely could, will pick Kim apart, starch him, maybe even knock him out. But this is also a little bit of a fade on Saffiedine, although he's a better striker on paper and stylistically. He's, of course, a good striker, but he's very inactive. The injuries have hurt him. Look at the Rick Story fight. Rick Story just got up in his face. Barely even took him down, honestly, just clinched him for a lot of the fight, and Saffiedine really had very little to offer. I am going to go Donghyun Kim because I think he can do similar things. He's a huge welterweight, quite a bit bigger than Saffiedine, has a 6-inch reach advantage and a 4-inch height advantage. I like him to police Saffiedine. I like Donghyun Kim to get inside the clinch, grind out Saffiedine with takedowns, maul him on the mat, and where Saffiedine really has very little to offer against a guy like Kim, and give me Donghyun Kim by unanimous decision. Maybe Saffiedine keeps it standing early on, scores enough in the first round to win that round, but I think Kim Donghyun Kim eventually groove get down. Up, we got the last FS1 prelim fight. Johnny Hendricks, former UFC welterweight champion, needs a win badly. He's going up against number 8 in the world, Neil Magny. Big Rig, of course, is number 6. Paolo, ghost of Big Rig, the ghost of the former welterweight champion, going up against Neil Magny.
Yeah, see if Neil Magny could have beaten Hector Lombard and who was that? Calvin Gastelum, and he's gonna go up against the shell of Johnny Hendricks, I think he could beat Johnny Hendricks. Let's just call it what it is. I'm just gonna say what it is. Johnny Hendricks does not look the same since they started doing a lot more drug testing. And as a lot of people have told me, that people who abuse PEDs, steroids, they screw up their internal organs and they have a harder time cutting weight, which is why Cyborg has a hard time cutting weight because she did PEDs in the past. I mean, is that a coincidence with Johnny Hendricks right now? Why he's missing fights? Why he shows up at UFC 200, one of the biggest cards of all time, looking like,
a zombie.
I don't know, not even there, like he's a ghost. Yeah, like what Carlos Esparza looked like against Ioana Jędrzejczyk, right? Or what BJ Penn looked like against the third Frankie Edgar fight. Like even if that guy shows up against Neil Magny, he's gonna lose this fight. With that said, Neil Magny doesn't really have a good chin either, and Neil Magny gets rocked in a lot of his fights, even though he has at least a 7 or 8 inch reach advantage. In this one, he's gonna have an 11-inch reach advantage because Hendricks has T-Rex arms and Magny has the third longest reach in the UFC group, and John Jones or OSP. But yeah, it's hard to be confident in Magny, even though I'm picking him. That's why the line is so close. But I think Magny is going to win at least 2 rounds and get a decision.
And Wes, what do you think? Johnny Hendricks, former UFC welterweight champion, definitely far from the belt now. I believe it's 2 losses in a row: the TKO to Stephen Warren Thompson and the decision to Kelvin Gastelum at UFC 200. Johnny Hendricks, Neil Magny, who do you got?
It's a pretty close matchup, I think, just because they have kind of similar styles in regards to what they do in the grappling department. Magny, he definitely in this fight is going to have the conditioning to go 3 rounds, while I think Hendricks, I don't know how he's going to manage once the fight gets out of the first and second round. I think that Magny is going to be able to take the fight over later as it goes on. But then I thought about, too, when it comes down to the striking, Magny is definitely going to have a reach advantage, I think, in this one by a decent amount. I don't know what it is. I'm going to try to pull it up real quick while I see it. Yeah, Magny's going to have an 11-inch reach advantage, and that's just crazy. And I feel like that could be used really effectively, especially keeping Johnny back, and Magny just being able to land jabs, which he's done effectively in a bunch of his fights. I have right now on Pick'em, I do have Johnny Hendricks, to be honest. I feel like Magny, I think on the feet, Magny, he's definitely good at keeping jabs, but Hendricks is still a better wrestler. I think he's a better wrestler, and I feel like he might be able to get the fight down. And I don't know really how Magny would stand up in a situation like that. I feel like he could. But when I first envisioned this fight, I just thought of more stylistically instead of their history, even though I should be thinking more of their history. I do have Johnny right now by unanimous decision. I think that he might be able to grind out a decision over Magny by just utilizing top control pretty well if he gets the fight down. But then again, if he can't get inside that reach of Magny and he doesn't do it in the first round, Magny's going to win this fight, I think, pretty easily. I'm going to keep my pick Hendricks just to make it more interesting, just so we have something to disagree about. But I think that a safer pick in this one's going to be Magny due to his reach, due to his conditioning, and due to the fight being here in the welterweight division, which Johnny has been struggling with in recent performances. So I'm going to keep my pick with Hendricks, unanimous decision.
When a good fighter has an 11-inch reach advantage over a fading fighter, you have to go with the reach advantage. I don't care who he is. I don't care stylistically how they match up. Neil Magny is going to beat Johnny Hendricks, and I'm actually fairly confident. I mean, I cannot pick Johnny Hendricks against really most of the top 10. Maybe he'd beat Dong Han Kim. Who knows? Kim is huge compared to Hendricks. I mean, Hendricks is getting smaller and smaller. And let's be honest, we can't say instantly that we have no proof that USADA is the factor here, but he hasn't won a fight since USADA became a thing. And he's looked a lot smaller, he's looked a lot weaker, and he's looked a lot worse overall. And I'm not hating on Johnny Hendricks. I like him as a fighter. He's a cool person, but it's just facts. He has not won since USADA came into play, and he's looked a lot smaller. Could he catch Neil Magny? He could. He hasn't won a fight by knockout since 2012, and that was against Martin Campbell. So will he knock out Neil Magny? I'd be shocked. I'd be very, very surprised if he catches Magny. So I'm going to go Neil Magny. I think he can win this fight almost anywhere. Hendricks, of course, has the wrestling, and would it be pretty impressive if Neil Magny is able to get inside and take him down? Possible. More so, Neil Magny probably stays out on the outside. He has one of the longest reaches in the sport, and Hendricks, as Paolo mentioned, basically has T-Rex arms. So yeah, if Neil Magny stays on the outside, he should absolutely be able to keep Hendricks in range. I said the same thing with Lorenz Larkin, and look what happened. So am I confident?
Those are mostly because of leg kicks. I mean, is Hendricks going to be kicking Neil Magny's legs off?
Yeah, exactly. And at this point, Lorenz Larkin is probably better than Hendricks, and Lorenz Larkin has an easier time getting inside and just overall the more dangerous fighter. Johnny Hendricks is on his way out. He has one foot out the door. He's talking about retirement, and that's something I want to bring up. I never like picking guys that are discussing retirement, saying, yeah, it's an option. If you're Uriah Faber, it's different because he said for sure, yes, this is my last fight, and that's a bit more motivation. But in this case, it's like Hendricks doesn't necessarily want to be there. He's saying, maybe I'll retire. I don't know. So Neil Magny all day for me. Fairly confident. If Hendricks wins, I won't be surprised. He's a veteran. And overall, his skills are good, but just size-wise and the reach, you got to go Neil Magny here. Hendricks is on his way out. Neil Magny, I still don't feel, is getting better and better. He's looked good other than the Maya fight and the Larkin fight. Out of 12 to 13 to 14 fights or so in the past few years, he's looked outstanding other than 2 fights. That's pretty good. Give me Neil Magny by decision, maybe finish. Next up, kicking off the pay-per-view main card, Lewis, the last Samurai Smoker, taking on Ray, the Taz Mexican Devil Borg. Really awesome flyweight matchup. Number 12 versus number 13. Initially, this was supposed to kick off the prelims. We could have been talking about Jessica Andrade versus TBD. We are not. That is officially canceled from this card. Smoke and Borg bumped up. Glad to see them on the pay-per-view. I feel like they deserve the spotlight. Borg, Paolo, who do you got?
Yeah, I got Smoka here. Thing about this fight is I think this is going to be a pretty exciting fight. I think this might be a performance of the night or a fight of the night recipient in here. Love both guys, but as you know me, I love the flyweights. I think it's one of the divisions that has the most skilled fighters, and because these guys are fast, they're very technical, and they can move a lot. There's a lot of things. You get more bang for your buck. There's a lot more happening in 15 minutes than in a heavyweight fight, where there's going to be a lot of two guys just huffing and puffing to the finish line. But anyway, I got Smoker because I think he's going to be able to handle himself better if the fight stays standing. But if it stays on the mat, then it's any man's game. Might give the edge to Borg here because this guy's just a phenom in terms of his jiu-jitsu, and Smoker can make those mistakes like against Brandon Moreno. But he could handle himself there better than Borg can if the fights stay standing, because Smoka's more creative. He's got more reach. He's pretty tough, and I don't think Borg's gonna go in there and knock him out. So, I mean, for Smoka's best interest, I think he should try to keep the fight standing, use his range a little bit more, and pick Borg apart. But if Borg manages to get in there and take the fight to the mat, I think he can at least try to survive.
And Wes, what do you think? Lewis Smoker, Ray Borg, in my opinion, one of the closest fights on the card. I've been going back and forth all week. Who do you got?
I'm a little more confident in Smolka here. I'm hoping he's going to be more cautious of his IQ in this one, like he did when he fought Brandon Moreno. Just made a few technical mistakes that cost him that fight. I think he also went in a little bit too overconfident. But I think Smolka, especially if this fight stays on the feet, Smolka's going to have the edge. I think he's definitely a better striker than Borg. But then again, when it comes to wrestling, I think Borg is definitely the better wrestler. I think that he might have the chance to get on top first. But I think that Smolka is going to be able to keep the fight standing, and I think this is going to be a really awesome flyweight fight. I have right now Smolka going to – I think he's going to get the unanimous decision win in this one, or just a decision in general. But this is a really, really close fight, and one that I'm really looking forward to. And I think that if Smolka, like I said, can keep it on the feet and just stuff the takedowns that Borg has, I think that he's going to be successful on this one. I think that Borg's really only chance is to just pretty much I just don't think he's going to have the advantage on the feet. And you mentioned a second ago his jiu-jitsu, I feel like, is a little more slick. But then again, Borg in his one fight when he fought Scoggins, he got taken down quite a bit in that one too. So who knows if his wrestling is going to be better than Smolka. But I'm gonna be leaning Smolka on this one. Definitely a decision.
Yeah, I'm gonna complete the hat trick and give me Lewis Smolka in this fight. But this is, as I said, one of the closest fights on the card, and I feel like we're gonna see a really fun fight here of two of the better grapplers in the entire flyweight division. Lewis Smolka definitely. I like how Paolo put it. He's definitely the more creative submission out of the two. Ray Borg, I feel like he's almost underperformed in his last few outings, and not even looking at the Justin Scoggins loss, which was a bit surprising to me. I feel like he beat Jean Herrera very convincingly, but I also feel like as a fighter of Ray Borg's caliber, or the caliber of fighter we thought he was, I feel like he probably should have submitted Jean Herrera or finish him, whatever. I just feel like he's been underperforming a bit as of late in the past year or so, and I don't know why. But Lewis Smolka, definitely the better finisher, has more finishes on his record. Let me just make sure that's accurate. But as of late, anyways, he's been finishing more guys, especially in the UFC. He obviously got caught in his last fight, the Brandon Moreno fight. Moreno, obviously, as we've seen in his last fight, especially, he's better than we all thought. Would Smolka beat him? If they rematch, maybe. I don't know. But Louis Smolka got caught. He told me, I interviewed Smolka 2 days ago, and he told me that he absolutely overlooked Moreno. So would it go differently? Maybe. I think Smolka's creativity will honestly come into play here a lot more than some people think. Ray Borg, a bit more generic. Smolka likes different angles on the mat, and he's a very fun fighter to watch on the mat, and he's also the better striker than Ray Borg. So I think he can win this fight in multiple areas. I don't think this will be standing. I think Smolka, if he does keep it standing, that'll be good for him. I think that'll probably suit him well, and he'll probably en route to a unanimous decision, win on the feet and whatnot. But I think we see a grappling matchup here. I think either Borg takes him down or Smolka gets him down. Either way, I think we're going to see a lot of fun scrambles here. But I like Louis Smolka to look a bit better and just score a bit more points on the mat than Ray Borg. Give me Louis Smolka by unanimous decision. Both guys are tough. I don't see Ray Borg getting tapped out, and I don't see Borg tapping Smolka out. So give me Louis Smolka by unanimous decision. Very close fight, maybe even a split decision win for Smolka. But The Last Samurai is my pick. Next up, awesome bantamweight matchup. This is one I've been wanting to see for a little while. TJ Dillashaw, former UFC bantamweight champion, taking on John the Hands of Stone Lineker. Wes, we'll start with you. TJ Dillashaw, John Lineker, awesome bantamweight matchup. Could fight the winner of a fight coming up. The bantamweight title is on the line, I heard, on this card. TJ Dillashaw, John Lineker. What are your thoughts? Am I frozen? I assume yes.
A little bit. I know you.
Dillashaw and Lineker.
Yeah, all right. I got you now. I'll go ahead. In this fight, I'm going to be leaning.
My Wi-Fi is so bad.
It's all right. we know what you mean. I'm going to be leaning Dillashaw in this one, and I'll give a few reasons why. I know a lot of people are picking Lineker, not a lot, just people in general, because they're saying, TJ got knocked out by Dotson back in the day, and Lineker has just as much, if not more, power. So, but I like to point out two things. One, now, first off, that definitely can happen, and I feel like that's more of a reliable pick if you want to lean towards a knockout. I think that Lineker definitely has a better chance of getting the knockout in this one. But that fight that TJ had back with John Dodson, that was back first off in 2011. Secondly, that was at a flyweight. That was not. Or wait, what? No, that might have been it. Was that? That was at.
Say that again.
That was bantamweight.
Never mind. I'm completely wrong. That's pretty embarrassing. But I don't know. I think that when you look at overall development and from what the fighters have been able to do in their performances, I think that TJ has definitely developed more. And I think of when it comes to TJ's power, I feel like that's increased a lot more than what it used to. His dynamic and ability to move around the octagon, I feel like that's going to confuse Lineker. I think that Lineker, in his recent performances, he has looked good, but I feel like he's been more looking for the knockout shots and just trying to get the fight over with early. I feel like that he doesn't fight with as much technicality as Dillashaw does. I think that, like I mentioned, Lineker, he's definitely going to have the power advantage. But I feel like TJ Dillashaw's dynamics, I feel like that's going to help him in this fight. I think that he's going to be able to avoid those power shots and pretty much keep the fight standing. Lineker has been taken down pretty easily before in some of his past fights, but I think that this fight is going to be pretty similar to when Dillashaw fought Sun Tzu in their last fight. He may get a takedown here or there, maybe later on in the fight, but I think that that Dillashaw is just going to be too dynamic and elusive, utilize some of the movement around the cage, and be able to get a decision in this one.
Paolo, what do you think? TJ Dillashaw, maybe you can't understand me, maybe you can't. TJ Dillashaw and John Lineker, who you got?
See, now I'm starting to warm up to the idea that Lineker can knock out TJ Dillashaw because it really depends, actually. If TJ Dillashaw is flat-footed and just goes hunt, if he hunts for like a knockout like he tried to do against Dominic Cruz, then he's going to get knocked out. But I think it's going to be the old TJ Dillashaw, the one who went in there and schooled Renan Barão for 2 fights. The guy who, with his patented footwork is going to dance around John Lineker, avoid the power shots. Lineker's going to be really flat-footed in there, basically just coming in slow, trying to go for a knockout. And I think Dillashaw can outpoint him. to a decision. I think Lineker is also super tough. Initially I was gonna say maybe Dillashaw even head kicks him or knocks him out or something like that. But Lineker's just really tough, man. That guy's hands of stone. He might as well be made of stone. But minus 250 for TJ Dillashaw. I don't know, man. Lineker's a knockout threat wherever he goes, man. So, I mean, it's gonna be hard though. He's gonna be able to find a way to really to really shrink the space from TJ and make him fight him in a straight line, which TJ won't do. So I got TJ here by decision.
Yeah, this is a tough one to call, but I think once we see it play out, I think stylistically this is a very good matchup for TJ Dillashaw. John Lineker can absolutely knock Dillashaw out. If he lands, Dillashaw is probably going out. I mean, he doesn't have a bad chin, but he has been knocked out before. That's not really a concern of mine, but just John Lineker hits like a truck and probably knocks out anybody if he lands cleanly. And sometimes he doesn't. He's not going to land on TJ Dillashaw. I don't think, anyways. Dillashaw is going to be too quick. He's going to be running, and not in a bad way. He's going to be smart about it. He's going to make it entertaining, but he's going to play this fight very safe, very smart, very intelligent. His fight IQ is high. Lineker's is good, not amazing. Lineker is going to be walking forward, landing, throwing punches, but he's going to be missing. He's going to be throwing punches at air, and he's not really going to have a whole lot of success. This is going to be a stand-up fight. I don't see any takedowns in this one for all 3 rounds, definitely on the feet. And TJ Dillashaw, although Lineker has the power advantage, of course, TJ Dillashaw, he's too dynamic. His movement and footwork is too great for a guy like John Lineker. He'll be moving around, he'll be pot-shotting, and he'll be the one landing, and it won't be John Lineker. Give me TJ Dillashaw by 30-27, unanimous decision. Next up, we got a rematch. Fabricio Verdum taking on Cain Velasquez. Awesome heavyweight matchup, and I wish it was 5 rounds. I can't believe Derek Lewis and Shamil Abdurakhimov went over 3 rounds, and if this one goes 3 rounds, that is just kind of mind-boggling to me. But here we are, Fabricio Verdum, Cain Velasquez. Velasquez, few new things. He has surgery booked for January, so that's a big concern, and he's on the weed now. So whether that comes into play, we will see. Paolo, what do you think? Cain Velasquez, Fabricio Verdum, the rematch from their June 2015 matchup, which Verdum won by submission.
Well, if C-Level Cain is back, then I guess C-Level Cain is going to go in there and smash Verdum. Look, I haven't really been impressed with Verdum ever since he lost his belt. Actually, even during the fight where he lost his belt, I mean, he just doesn't look as motivated to win as much now. And I mean, he went in. I mean, look at how the way he defended his belt. I mean, that was like he was basically chasing at Stipe recklessly and exposing himself, and runs into a punch and gets knocked out. And then after that, I think was the Travis Brown fight. Was that the next fight he had after that?
Yep.
Comes in there with a flying kick, and then after that, pretty much doesn't do anything for most of the fight. I mean, it's just so much that Travis Brown did even less in that fight. That's why Verdum won. But I don't know. I don't think. And now he's going to be fighting Cain in a rematch in a fight he already won. I don't know if he's even going to be motivated to prove to everyone that he can beat Cain when he already did it. And Cain looked really good in dispatching of Travis Brown. Actually looked the opposite of what Verdum did, because he basically just destroyed him. But now he did his back problems, where he says it starts to hurt after 10 minutes of fighting. So does that mean around round 3 he's going to be like, getting the F out of there, looking for a door, trying to survive because his back's going to be killing him? Or he's going to get Verdum out before that happens? Maybe he gets Verdum out of there, actually. Verdum's chin has never really been the best, and Cain is just going to keep lighting Verdum up, man. I mean, he was already lighting him up in their first fight, and I think this time maybe he just gets the job done. So I got Cain within the first 2 rounds.
And Wes, what do you think? Cain Velasquez and Fabricio Verdum, awesome heavyweight matchup. Winner probably fights Stipe Miocic.
I'm actually pretty confident in Cain Velasquez in this one. The biggest difference between this fight and the last fight is that this fight for Cain versus Verdum, this fight is here in the United States. The last fight was in Mexico City at ridiculous altitude, and that altitude, you can definitely tell, has affected Cain more than it has in any performance he's ever had in his UFC career. And I think that's one important thing to note. And also think about this too. Cain I guess he only had about a week or a week and a half to prepare at that altitude, which isn't that much time. While for Doom, on the other hand, I think he was already there for like a month. So he was used to it. He was able to condition his body to understand the altitude, and was able to get the win in that one. In this 3-round fight, especially the fact that it's happening here in the United States, I think that Kane is just – I think, especially if you look at their performances against Travis Brown, Kane looked fantastic from beginning to end, while Verdum, I feel like he just kind of had a mediocre performance. It wasn't anything special. I didn't really take anything away from it, unlike some of his previous fights that he had before he even won the title. I think that Kane, I think he's going to be able to get the finish here. I'm really confident in Kane. I actually have him getting a first-round knockout. I think his striking is going to be too much for Verdum. I feel like Verdum just won't be able to take that much punishment. I feel like Stipe, that knockout that Stipe did to Verdum, might play a huge impact on the way that his chin acts for the rest of his career. I'm pretty confident again in Kane. Have really nothing else to say, but I'm going to be signing with Velasquez, a first-round knockout.
Yeah, I'm going to complete the hat trick and go with the former heavyweight champion. So my pick here is Cain Velasquez. I think I'm full of bad jokes. It's so bad. Cain Velasquez is going to win this fight. Fabricio Verdum is on the way down, and is Velasquez better days behind him? Maybe, but are Verdum's better days behind him? Absolutely. I think it's kind of clear to say that Cain Velasquez, now MMA math, whatever you want to call it, both guys are coming off wins over Travis Brown. Verdum looked pretty bad in that win, and Cain Velasquez looked amazing. I buy into the C-level Cain thing. People can laugh at me. People can say I'm an idiot for thinking C-level Cain is legit, but I honestly think Cain Velasquez, as he should have or enough when he fought Verdum at high elevation, when he was fighting in Mexico City. Who is to blame? Absolutely Cain Velasquez and his team, nobody else. But facts are facts. He didn't get out there on time. He didn't get acclimated to the conditions, and that affected his performance. And of course, he was also coming off the big layoff, so that obviously probably played a factor as well. But we're not talking Mexico City here. This is just Las Vegas, fairly standard. Cain Velasquez is going to look like the guy who beat Brown badly this past July, although there's an asterisk because he has a surgery booked for January. Big red flag. I mean, if a fighter has a fight scheduled for a week or so from now and also a surgery scheduled, you shouldn't have a fight and a surgery scheduled at the same time. That really shouldn't be a thing that happens, but it's happening. I guess the surgery isn't career-changing. It's not completely necessary. Kind of like Daniel Cormier's knee surgery, which he's been putting off or did put off for a long time. Maybe that's kind of what it is, but I mean, we will see. I'm not confident in Cain because of that reason, because he definitely isn't 100% healthy. Will he ever be? No. But Verdum, this is also a fate on Fabricio Verdum. He did not look good against Travis Brown. I think the Stipe Miocic fight changed him. Stylistically, I think Cain Velasquez goes out there throwing bombs, not wildly enough, so he gets knocked out. But I think this will be a lot different of a fight than we saw in June 2015. Cain Velasquez will not gas out. Verdum will not hit him on the feet as much as he did in the first meeting. This will be a completely different matchup. We will see Cain Velasquez get revenge and earn his way back to the title. Give me Cain Velasquez via first-round knockout. Not confident in Verdum's chin at all. He's a bit sloppy now. He didn't look good in the Brown fight, as I said, very sloppy on the feet. Give me Cain Velasquez, the better fighter in my opinion, by knockout in the first round. Moving on to the pair of bantamweight title fights. Next weekend, when this card takes place, we could have two different bantamweight champions. Kind of crazy. So first up, we got Dominick Cruz, the men's UFC bantamweight champion, taking on Cody No Love Garbrandt, number 5 in the bantamweight division. Very interesting matchup. It's either going to be Cruz by maybe late finish if you want to go with that, but probably by decision, or Cody Garbrandt by starching in the first round. Fairly easy fight to call. Not as far as the pick goes, but I mean, there aren't many ways this fight can end, in my opinion. Paolo, we'll start with you. Does Dominic Cruz retain his Bantamweight championship, or does Cody Garbrandt gain the Bantamweight championship?
No, I'm not gonna bet against Dominic Cruz this time around. Last time I picked TJ Dillashaw. I mean, you could argue that he kind of won that fight. I mean, especially if scored by pride rules, TJ Dillashaw did more damage to Cruz. Cruz was hobbling around. I know he said it was because of his foot, and TJ had a busted eye. But TJ was landing some of the bigger shots in that fight. But Cruz just knows how to win these fights, man. This, at the end of the day, it's more of a competition than it is a fight. So even if Dominic Cruz, a lot of fighters keep saying, "Oh, all does is dance around, touch us, tip tap, that's it," and then he wins a decision. I mean, it's still a win, And I think that's what's going to happen against Cody Garbrandt. The thing about Garbrandt, though, is that he's got really quick hands. So even if I think that Dillashaw was the better striker, you can't teach speed. Speed kills, man. And sometimes all Garbrandt needs is like a few openings at Cruz, and he can put him away. But I don't think he will. I think he might maybe score a 10-8 round at best, where he hurts Cruz. Cruz gets rocked, and then he tries to finish him, but he can't. And Cruz, sort of recovers, then takes over and starts winning the final rounds, especially the fourth or the fifth round, the championship rounds. So it might end up being a majority win or maybe even a majority draw. But I still got Cruz winning this one because I don't think Cody's going to be able to just put him up flat, where basically Cruz is just lifeless or something like that, right? So I got Dominic Cruz outlasting Cody Garbrandt.
And Wes, what do you think? Dominic Cruz or Cody Garbrandt? Who walks away the men's UFC Bantamweight champion?
I think Cody has a really good shot to possibly get a knockout in this one. But I'm going to be leaning Dominic for a couple reasons. I think when you look at Dominic's career and some of the fights that were kind of closer contested, especially in recent years, I know, first off, this one is a little bit older, but when he fought Demetrius Johnson, Demetrius landed quite a bit of shots. I think even more than Dominic did. And we know that Cruz is very elusive and not really hittable. But Demetrius, he's a very, very technical striker. Then we look at Cruz's not last fight, that was Uriah Faber, but the fight beforehand when Cruz fought TJ Dillashaw. That fight, TJ landed quite a decent amount of shots too. Another very technical fighter. We look at Cody Garbrandt. I feel like his technicality lacks a little bit in comparison to both of them. And a big problem with Cody is that two problems that I have is that one, he tends to look for the knockout shot, which we've seen in pretty much all of his fights, and two, he gets hit a lot. And I don't really like that. Some of his fights, you see him he rushes in a little bit too fast and just gets tagged a little more than suitable. And that's actually what happened when he fought back in one of his amateur fights. Garbrandt was actually knocked out. And I think that's when Dominic went on Twitter and made fun of him, wishing everybody a happy Thanksgiving or Merry Christmas or whatever it was, which was pretty funny. But I think that Cruz is just going to be pretty similar to what TJ is going to do to John Lineker. I think Lineker would be looking for those big shots, and I think that Garbrandt's going to be doing the same thing. I think that Cruz is easily going to have the upper hand with wrestling. I think that he's just going to be able to get a pretty easy decision in this one, but that's if Garbrandt doesn't land one of those power shots. It could definitely be the end of the fight at any moment if he can. Overall, I think that Cruz is just the better fighter, the more technical fighter. Garbrandt could definitely surprise me, but I'm going to be leaning, just based off prior performances, I'm going to be leaning Dominic Cruz. I think he's going to get a decision win in this one. Probably 50-45.
Yeah, this is a very close matchup to call, and it's interesting because it's close on paper, but it won't be close in the fight because Dominic Cruz is either going to win by 50-45 unanimous decision, and literally if this goes to the scorecards and Cody Garbrandt wins a round, that'll be surprising to me. I don't see Cody Garbrandt winning on the scorecards one bit. There's no way, unless he hurts Cruz but doesn't finish him, which I also find would be kind of surprising because I think if he hurts Cruz, he's probably going to get Cruz out of there when he does. It's a very close matchup stylistically on paper, but it won't be when it's all said and done, because Cruz is either going to dominate by decision, one step ahead of him all day. The movement, the footwork. I mean, he has the best footwork in MMA. His movement is second best. It is the best also in MMA. Coinciding, of course, there. And just, his ability, his style is such a difficult puzzle to solve, and no one has been able to do so yet. During Cruz's title reign, of course, yes, he lost to Faber, but I can't even bring that up. That happened like 9 years ago at this point, maybe even more. So, this is a very close fight. And Cody Garbrandt, the reason I am giving him a legitimate shot here, it's not like TJ Dillashaw. Cody Garbrandt goes after it every second of the fight. This guy's has been getting better and better and better. He has knockout power. He has legitimate knockout power. And one of the biggest things in this matchup is that he closes the distance so well. He gets inside so well. And you need to have that when you're fighting Dominick Cruz. Dominick Cruz backs up, moves laterally, side to side, forward. I mean, it's so confusing. You don't know what Dominick Cruz is going to do next. But I give Garbrandt a reasonable chance because he's able to cut off the cage so well. And he could find himself in Cruz's range and would then be able to land on Cruz. And honestly, I'm going to go Cody Garbrandt. I'm going to go Cody Garbrandt for the upset. I'm going to say that Cody Garbrandt knocks out Dominick Cruz in the first round. As I said, it's either going to be Garbrandt by first round knockout or Cruz by 50-45 decision. If there's anything else, any other scorecard or any other finish result, I'd be kind of surprised. Dominick Cruz does have the takedowns, but you can't sleep on Garbrandt's wrestling as well. We've only really seen his striking, but I believe that his wrestling is better than we think, as well as his submissions. Cruz is obviously more well-rounded, but will it matter? This is probably not, for me, with my prediction of Garbrandt my knockout, that probably won't, because Cruz won't have enough time to really think, okay, so takedowns. I don't see Cruz going for takedowns unless we're talking like the championship round, so to speak. When Garbrandt was slowing down, when Cruz is picking up momentum and dominating the rounds, that's when I would see the takedowns coming into play. I don't see Cruz going for the takedowns right away. I see him standing with Garbrandt early on, and it probably will end up being a mistake. I'm going to go Cody Garbrandt to get inside. He's so ferocious inside the cage. He's young. He's hungry. And I'm not to say Cruz isn't either. He absolutely is. And one interesting thing is that I feel like they've been going back and forth, of course. There's a whole embarrassing exchange on the UFC Fox broadcast that Wes talked about when Flying Brian, him, and I did a post-fight show last weekend. Of course, that was embarrassing, as Wes mentioned, but I feel like Cruz obviously got the better of that, and he might be in Garbrandt's head a little bit, so that could come into Cruz's play and advantage. Maybe Cruz gets the win. Realistically, Cruz does. Both guys have a good shot. To me, it's a 50-50 fight. Cruz could easily get this one done very easily, one step ahead. Wouldn't be surprised. Or Garbrandt gets a knockout. Flip the coin. I'm going Cody Garbrandt by knockout. Wouldn't be surprised if it goes the other way. Of course not. Dominick Cruz, one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the UFC. But I believe his title reign will come to an end next Saturday night. Give me Cody Garbrandt by first-round knockout and new bantamweight champion. Time for the main event of the evening. Fighting over the red corner, of course, is getting no hype whatsoever because what do you know? Ronda Rousey is back. Ronda Rousey, the former women's bantamweight king, is coming back. She's been in the shadows for over a year after her knockout loss to Holly Holm. Shocking fight, of course. How will she rebound? We will find very, very soon. She's taking on the champion, Amanda the Lioness Nunes. Very interesting women's bantamweight fight, of course. One is for the title, but also it's in a very crazy spot right now in the division because we've seen the title change hands numerous times this year. Of course, Holm entered 2016 the champion, and now she's leaving 2016 on a two-fight skid and also moving up in weight and possibly looking to become the fourth two-division champion in UFC history. Miesha Tate went into the UFC to the 2016, got the title a few months later. Now, leaving 2016, she's a champion. Amanda Nunes walks in 2016. And she's there, but not a name, really, so to speak, not in title contention, and she walks away with the title. Very crazy division. Ronda Rousey, Amanda Nunes. Paolo, we'll start with you. Who walks away with UFC gold next Saturday night?
Oh, this is really tough, man. I don't even know how to cap this because it all depends on Ronda Rousey's mentality here. And I mean, who knows where Ronda Rousey is mentally? I mean, you see some people saying that, oh, she already has one foot out the door. She's already saying that it's going to be one of her last. She's not handling her loss very well, like choosing to ignore media and not getting punished for it like Connor did, refusing interviews during the whole face-off thing. She had to be consoled, apparently, according to some reports out there. I mean, who knows with Ronda, man? She's very unpredictable. And the thing is, Nunes could actually be the toughest test she's had, even more than Holm. Because the thing about Holm is, Holm was a better striker than she was, but Ronda was still the better grappler. Just so much that Holm managed to keep the fight standing long enough to knock her out. But with Nunes could not just be a better striker. Nunes could be the better grappler. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, well, that's insane. Ronda Rousey's freaking crazy on the mat, and she just submits everyone. But Nunes is a brown belt in judo and a black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And I mean, she's pretty much whooped everyone. She's whooped everyone either standing or on the ground, and the only way she loses is because she gasses. I mean, that's how Katzengano beat her. She gassed her out and then basically just mounted her and beat her up. But other than that, she's pretty much destroyed everyone. Yeah, no, it's hard. It's hard to see how this goes because I could see Ronda submitting Nunes if the fight goes to the ground, and I could see Nunes knocking out Ronda. But I'll just go with Nunes here because I think she has more ways to win. I think I'm not fully confident Ronda Rousey's the same fighter that she once was. I mean, losses like that change a fighter, man, whether they'll be better or whether they'll be worse. I mean, even when GSP overcame his knockout loss to Matt Serra, he was never the same GSP anymore. He went from being George's Rush St. Pierre to George's the Decision St. Pierre. So who knows how Ronda's going to fight now, but I got to give it to Nunes.
Awesome. And Wes, what do you think? Amanda Nunes, do you think she retains the bantamweight title on December 30th? Or do you think Ronda Rousey gets back into the winning column in a big way and picks up UFC gold once again?
Oh, man. This is a really, really tough fight, and I think we can all pretty much say that. What I have right now when it comes to pick'em, I have Nunes. I think that Nunes, in her recent performances, especially in 2015 and 2016, the biggest difference that we've seen in Nunes from past years is that she's fought a lot more smart. And I know that she's been the same aggressive person. I know an example that somebody could say is when Nunes fought Shevchenko. She went really, really hard in the second round and gassed out bad when the fight got to the third round. But in the wins that she's had when it comes to the first round, especially her last fight when she fought Miesha Tate, very, very patient. She knew that she was hurting Tate on the feet, but she didn't rush forward like she used to in some of her past fights. You mentioned a second ago, she has great jiu-jitsu skills. She's a black belt. And I feel like that might actually even out when it comes to Ronda, especially in the earlier rounds of the fight. I think that Ronda's best chance is going to be come maybe the later rounds. I feel like Nunes is going to be very, very aggressive at first and be able to keep Ronda back, maybe circling the cage. I actually don't think Ronda's going to be the one pressing forward in this one. I think Nunes is going to be the one pressing forward. And I think if it comes down, if this was just a one-round fight, I think that Nunes would definitely get it. And I also did mention that she does pace herself now, but she still gasses out. It's still obvious that she does. She just gets really, really tired. And I think it's because she's so strong. She has one of the most powerful, probably the most powerful female in this division. I think that power may be able to be her best weapon in this fight. And I think that she's going to be able to get the better of Ronda in the first round. And right now I have Nunes. I think she's going to get a first-round knockout. I think that she's going to be able to stop Ronda early. But one thing that I've noticed about Nunes, too, is that she's always struggled a little bit with takedown defense. And that's one place that Ronda excels, especially in her judo. So who knows how this fight or where this fight's going to take place. If it takes place on the feet, Ronda does not have a chance. I feel bad saying that, but there's no way Nunes will batter her and beat her up just like she did to pretty much everybody that she has in the first round at least. But if Ronda can survive that storm and she gets past maybe the second round, I think that it's going to be Ronda's fight no matter what to win. But in this fight, I'm going to be leaning Nunes. I think she's going to get a first-round submission victory or a first-round TKO victory. And hopefully not – I don't want to say retire Ronda, but I'm kind of worried to see what happens if she loses again, especially where she's going to be in her mental state. Hopefully she'll be there, and hopefully she'll still be confident. But I'm hoping that she still will be around because she's
she'll be around in Hollywood.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I'm going to be leaning Nunes in this one. Nothing else to really say. It's a very, very close fight. I think I might pick one on Pick'em and then one on MMAplayground.com. So then I can get at least
can't
one.
be wrong.
Yeah,
that's the way to do it.
Then I can get one right. So
yeah, I'm the type of guy to go all in or nothing, but of course it's probably a smart way to go with this one. Although kind of cheap because you can still say, "Oh, I picked the winner somewhere." So
well, remember, I'm picking Nunes. That's my gut pick.
Okay. I'm going to agree. I'm going to keep this fairly short now that I said that, I'll probably be talking for 5 minutes. But I think this is a lot of questions will, of course, be answered. Does Amanda Nunes, is her cardio better than it once was? Probably not, because she did slow down against Shevchenko, and that was this past March, not that long ago. We know a lot about Amanda Nunes. She's a better grappler than most think, not amazing. And she has great striking. She moves forward, pressures in, as I said, very good on the feet and very explosive. And, of course, just mauls her opponents on the feet. And that's what happened with Miesha Tate, of course, this past summer in the main event of UFC 200, the supposed biggest card of all time, which ended up not really being that at all. Ronda Rousey, on the other hand, we know what the deal is with her. Bad on the feet, amazing on the ground, used to getting very quick submissions. Only home, she instead tried to stand with a kickboxer, and it didn't work out. She got knocked out in the second round, and we haven't seen her since. Since then, we've seen 3 women's bantamweight champions. Right now, it's, of course, Amanda Nunes. I'm going with the champion to retain her title here, Amanda Nunes. I think she's going to finish Ronda Rousey in the first round. But this, on paper, is a very close fight because I believe that if Amanda Nunes is known for her for moving inside and getting inside and landing bombs up close, and Ronda Rousey excels against fighters that pressure. Of course, it's different than, say, Amanda Nunes moving in for the kill and Kat Zingano moving in with a jumping knee that really didn't work out at all and honestly was just a mistake. So I think that's where it's a bit different, of course. Amanda Nunes isn't going to go in wildly and get caught like that and make a stupid mistake. I think she's smart enough as a fighter to not do that. The biggest thing here is Ronda Rousey's mental game. I don't think she's 100% here. She doesn't want to talk to MMA media, which isn't a new thing, but it's not a good thing either. She just doesn't seem there completely, and she doesn't seem like she wants it completely. Does she have one foot out the door? Very possible. Getting offers for Hollywood and movies and stuff. How could you be? How could you be all in on getting punched in the face for a living when you have big time offers from as far as being an actor? You obviously go with Hollywood. You're going to make more money, and you're not going to get beat up for a living. That's usually the smarter career path. So that's a big thing in this fight. Does Ronda Rousey want it? Is she all there? I don't. I kind of think no. Can I say for sure? No, of course not. But that's my gut feeling anyways. Amanda Nunes is going to light Rousey on the feet. But stylistically, this is a good matchup for her because Amanda Nunes, of course, does like to move inside. Rousey is good against fighters that do that. And Ronda Rousey can put Nunes on her back and could get the armbar or some sort of submission very quickly. It's very possible. But I think Nunes is going to start tagging her before Rousey is able to find her groove. Keep in mind, she's coming off an over-a-year layoff. She is going to be a bit rusty early on. We're not going to see her tap out Nunes in 14 seconds. I'd be shocked if that happens, considering the layoff particularly. So I think Nunes will find her groove quicker than Ronda does, and start taking her. Ronda Rousey will start backing up, won't have the pressure, won't have that sort of anger that she does in her usual fights, or in her fights usually, I should say. So give me Amanda Nunes. Starts lighting her up on the feet and doesn't let the match where Rousey wants to fight, of course. Pretty simple fight. If Nunes keeps it standing, she wins all day. If Rousey gets the takedown, she probably taps Nunes out. So give me Amanda Nunes, keeps it standing, lights Rousey up on the feet. Rousey starts covering up and doesn't really know what to do. I don't expect that Rousey striking is much better than it was a year ago. Working with Edmund, obviously not a good choice. So give me Amanda Nunes to retain her title for the very first time and pick up the biggest win of her career. Give me Amanda Nunes by first round TKO. There we go. UFC 207 in the books. One of the better cards of the year. Would be a great way to finish off 2016. And just looking at the card in general, I think we're in for a treat. I think on paper, or off of paper, I should say, this is going to be a really fun fight. Or card, I should say. So with that, let's move on to fight night performances of the night very quickly. Then DraftKings. Wes, we'll start with you. Fight night and performances. Who are you giving them to?
All right, I'll make it pretty brief. I won't really even explain either. My fight of the night is going to go to Alex Oliveira versus Tim Means on the Fight Pass prelims. And my two performances are going to go to Amanda Nunes stopping Ronda Rousey in the first round, and also over to Cain Velasquez stopping Fabricio Verdum, also, I think, in the first round.
Awesome. And Paolo, what about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna say my fight of the night is gonna go to Smolka and Ray Borg. I think that we're gonna see some back and forth here, maybe both on the feet, especially on the mat, and it's gonna end in a finish for someone. Performance of the night, I think Amanda Nunes gets it if she finishes Rousey, or if Rousey finishes Nunes, she obviously gets it. And then the next one we're probably gonna go to Cain. Cain's gonna stiffen Fabricio, who's gonna get his revenge. C-level Cain for $50K.
And my fight of the night, I will agree with Paulo, goes to Louis Smolka and Ray Borg. As I said, I think this will be a grappling affair for the majority of the fight. I think we're going to see some beautiful grappling from both guys, with Smolka getting the better of the scrambles and whatnot. So give me Smolka in that fight, and give me 50 Gs for fight of the night for Smolka and Borg. And my two performances, kind of hate to say it because they don't need it per se, but we'll go to the two champions after Saturday night, and that'll be Amanda Nunes and Cody Garbrandt, both picking up TKO victories in the main and co-main event, respectively. Garbrandt, of course, not confident, and nor am I in Nunes, but if Cruz wins, then it'll probably go to Velasquez because they like giving it to main card fighters anyways. Just as far as other ones, I think Vittori could get it, and Tim Means, maybe Brandon Thatch, but my picks, Nunes, Garbrandt, Smolka, and Borg. And our DraftKings teams, Paulo, we'll start with you if you are ready to go. Let us know your 6 fighters on your DraftKings team.
Yeah, so DraftKings is actually very affordable, I should say. I think the most expensive fighter, believe it or not, is Brandon Thatch at $9,000. And that's probably a no-no right there, because even though he runs over Nico Price, he's also, he hasn't looked good recently, and we really don't know what he's going to look like out there. But as far as fighters, I got TJ Dillashaw, I got Cody Garbrandt, I got Amanda Nunes. Actually, I should explain Garbrandt, because even if Garbrandt loses, I mean, I still think it's going to be a 5-rounder, and he's still going to land enough shots to score enough points, especially if he does the knockdowns that I predicted he would do. He's still going to get points even if he loses by decision. And if he knocks Cruz out, then even better. So he's got a high floor, high ceiling. So Nunes, pretty much that's a hit or miss. Either she scores a lot of points or she doesn't score a lot. Smolka, you could say the same thing about that. Cain, one of my more confident picks. I think he's going to score points regardless. And Marvin Vittori, I think he's going to beat Shoeface and score a lot of points too.
And Wes, do you have a team ready to go?
I do, and conveniently, it's not the same as it was last week. So I'm going to have, starting off at the top, I have TJ Dillashaw. I think he's going to effectively outpoint and outstrike Lineker throughout that fight. Probably take it to a decision, but I feel like that he'll get enough points for that. I have Alex Garcia in the second one. Not really too confident in that one. But when it came down to looking at all the choices, I feel like Garcia has a good shot to maybe get a finish followed by a takedown, kind of wearing out and grinding down pile to get a decision and land some shots from the mat. So I have Garcia as my second. My third, I have Amanda Nunes. I think that she's going to be able to stop Ronda Rousey in the first round. I also have Nico Price. I'm taking a risk on Nico because we haven't seen Brandon Thatch do too well in his recent performances. Also, Nico is still pretty young, coming in undefeated. I feel like he has a good shot in that one to possibly get a finish. So I have Nico. I also have Kane, very confident in that pick. Think he might be able to get a first or second round stoppage. My last pick, Marvin Vettori, the 23-year-old, pretty bright prospect. I think he's going to be able to pretty much just control wherever the fight goes against Sapato. So, yeah, those are my 6 picks on DraftKings.
Awesome. And my team, I found it relatively easy to make one up. As Paul mentioned, we see a lot of fairly cheap people on this for this DraftKings for UFC 207, which is for the players. And of course, having Cody Garbrandt on my team helps. So my team is Tim Means, TJ Dillashaw, Amanda Nunes, Marvin Vettori, Cody Garbrandt, and Cain Velasquez. So there you go. DraftKings teams in the books. Fight night performances in the books. The card in the books. And that means before the battle, episode 56 is over. We'll go, Paolo. This is your last time. Won't be the last time plugging your stuff, but we bid farewell to the to the regular before the battle. Go, Paolo. You'll be back. That's BJ Penn's return. I can't believe that, but yeah, that's happening in half a month or so. But you'll be doing DraftKings stuff from now on. Let the people know where they can check you out on social media and your writing and anything else you got to plug.
Yeah, so I forgot to put on the name. Well, imagine that in the last show, I always have it on and I actually forget for this one. You can find me at GoPaulo MMA on the Twitterverse, at GoPaulo.com if you want to know more about beyond writing, traveling, not just MMA stuff, which is mainly what my focus has been on. And yeah, come check out our articles at Sportsnet. I got a couple coming up towards the end of the year. I'm going to be previewing some breakout fighters for 2017, and we're going to have something for 207.
Awesome. Wes, let the people know where they can check you out on social media, your writing, and anything else you got to plug.
So you can find me first off on Twitter at AllThatMMA. That's where I do pretty much all my communication with the people that I follow and the people that follow me. I love that as an outlet. I think it's fun to have conversation, especially during the fights, during the off time that we have, and also just pretty much talking about life. I think it's a lot of fun. That's All That MMA on Twitter. You can catch me over there, and you can also catch my writing that I do over at MMAsucker.com. I'm going to hopefully get this up on there probably tomorrow at some point. And I also have a couple little plans that I want to do now that I'm here for break. And I'm not in school. I can actually focus a little time on writing in my free time. Have a couple surprise articles I'm going to try to get out there in the next couple days to wrap up 2016 and hopefully preview a couple things that I want to talk about in 2017. So a few good things I think coming your way over at MMAsucker.com. And that's pretty much it for me. As always, thanks for having me on the show.
You guys can check me out on Twitter at NickUFC. Always down to chat about mixed martial arts and anything else you want to talk about. But warning as always, don't know a whole lot about anything else other than MMA. So hit me up, test my knowledge about non-MMA stuff, and you'll probably be surprised at how little I know. But again, maybe I'll surprise myself and know more than I think I know. Hit me up there on Twitter at NickUFC. You can check out my writing as always over at bloodyalbo.com. Always putting out a lot of great content, fight coverage, event coverage, that is, interviews. My podcast, The MMA Circus, hosted each and every week with Andrew the Clown Kid Lawrence. Just put out episode 90 of the show tonight. It features 2 guests, Louis Smolka, who we talked about already, of course. He fights next week in UFC 207. And we had Heath Herring, former UFC heavyweight fighter, who's coming back after an 8-year layoff. Kind of crazy. And he's now stepping up on short notice, fighting in the Risen tournament next weekend. Crazy story, but Heath Herring is back and got the chance to talk to him yesterday. And that's up on the MMA Circus today over on Bloody Elbow. We're actually doing 2 shows. And for the same reason we're doing this show right now, a week before, because I won't be here next week. So we're doing 2 shows of the circus this week. Our will be out on Friday, and I will be guest co-hosting that with me will be the greatest living Canadian, arguably, because I know Paolo and I might beg to differ, but James Lynch will be co-hosting the show with me, and our three guests. Well, none of these are complete official, but it looks like it's happening. Marvin Vittori, who we talked about tonight, Dustin Ortiz, and Hector Sandoval. Ortiz coming off the win at 206, and Sandoval coming off the win this past weekend at the Fox show. All of those interviews are happening tomorrow, so unless they all fall apart, those are going to be the guests on Friday's show. I think that's it. At Nick UFC on the Twitter. Thanks to you guys, as always, for listening. Wes, Paolo, appreciate your time as always. Paolo, it was fun doing the show. Year and a half in the books. Everything has to come to an end eventually. But you'll be back, of course, with your DraftKings stuff. Your DraftKings. The king of DraftKings never leaves. There you go. Episode 56 of Before the Battle in the books. Thank you guys for listening. And with that, enjoy the fights.